All right, again, today we are going to go over DocuSign transaction room. So this is where we keep all of our files now, and it allows you to create your files inside here. So you can manage it, you can send things out for signature, type on forms just like you would in zip forms, all within this one program, so you don't have to go several different places to manage those transactions. So the website for the transaction room is realestate.docusign.com. And when we go ahead and log in here, you always come right to your dashboard. There's no action required here. It's just a preview of everything, an overview of what you've got going on. So you've got your recently viewed transactions, so anything that you guys have looked at recently, any new transactions that you've created. Envelope activity is just anything that you have sent out to a client to be signed. So you can see this one's waiting to be sent. We voided out a couple and complete. And then new document access is just going to be if anybody has granted you access to a document. So maybe one of the staff members has shared a document with you, you'll get a little notification here. You will also get email notifications on all of this, so you don't have to log in and look at this. But when you come in, again, it's just a quick overview of what you've got going on. And then your quick stats down the side, again, it's just going to show you how many active transactions you have, how many people are within your network. Again, just an overview. From the agent perspective, about everything that you do is going to be through the Transactions tab, which is across the top, about the fourth tab over. This is where you're going to be able to create your files, manage any current files, add any pending paperwork so the office staff can process the files. Everything's going to live right within here. So think of this as your filing cabinet where you're keeping all of your paper files. So you'll be able to see any of your current active transactions right here. If you have anything under review, that just means the staff sent it back to you because maybe you're missing a document. And then closed is where all of your closed files will stay. So down the road, if you need to reference one of those, you'll be able to click on that closed tab and see those files. So as we're coming in here as a new user, the first step we're going to need to do is create that actual transaction room. So open up that paper file and add our documents. So to do that, we'll go up to the right-hand corner and click New. And it's going to bring up the Create a Transaction where we'll be able to add our address. So the room owner, you guys will not see this part. That's just because I'm in an admin account. You will always be the room owner of yours. And then we will type in our property address. If I could spell today. And then you'll select your role. So for this program, your role is always going to be the real estate agent. I know we're all real estate brokers now, but real estate broker for the program pertains to the managing broker of your office. So you'll select you're the real estate agent, and then what side of the transaction are we on? So is this a list side, or is this for a buyer? So for this one, we will say it is for the buyer. And then also you are allowed to upload a photo. You do not have to. Obviously, if you upload a photo kind of similar in this background gray area, your transaction will look like this. If you do not, it's going to look like this over here on the left side. So if you like the photo, you can add it, but it's not necessary. Once you've pushed create, it's going to open, and we are now inside of that transaction. So you'll know that by your information is going to be here as the real estate agent, and then the name of your transaction and the little house or the photo are going to pop here. When you're inside of that transaction room, the main tabs as an agent that you will focus on is going to be your Documents tab, which is where you're going to add that paperwork into the file. The People's tab, which is where you will be adding your clients into it. So this is where you'll be able to give them access to that file. And then the Envelopes tab is where you send everything out. The Details tab, you can add all of the details out in this when you are working through it if you're a details person. If you do not add the details in there, as the file progresses, so as it goes to pending and so on, the staff that's processing the paperwork will fill out the details. So you're more than welcome to fill it out, but you do not have to. So we'll start inside that Documents tab. So this is where we are going to be adding in the paperwork to our file so we can fill it out and get it ready for our clients. So once we're inside of that Documents tab, we'll go up to the right-hand corner and click Add. If you already have the document saved on your computer, you can just upload it. Otherwise, we'll select Zip Forms, and we'll be able to pull in the forms here. You're always going to see the linked transaction box come up first. If by chance you already created this transaction inside of Zip Forms, we could just go ahead and select this box, click Link, and it's going to give us access to pull in all of those documents we've already prepped. If we've not prepped anything, which would be in this case, we're going to go ahead and create a new file for that. So we'll click Create. It's going to confirm the address, that it's a purchase, and then we'll just select the property type, and then click Create one more time. Once we've done that, it's going to let us decide where we want to pull our forms from. You're going to see the link transaction here one more time. That's just in case you forgot. Maybe you get to the step and you're like, oh, I did already create that. This will take you right back to the linked step. Otherwise, you're always going to select Zip Forms Library, and it's going to open up all of the libraries that you have access to inside of your Zip Forms account. So we'll select the library that we're looking for, and then we can go through and just check next to each box that we need for this file. So we'll throw a counteroffer in there and a purchase agreement. And you can add as many files as you want at once, or you can just add them as you go. So if you want to add everything you think you're going to need at once, you can do that. Or if you want to start just with the purchase agreement, and then as we go on, we'll add counters and so on, you can do that as well. So once we've selected the boxes next to the files we need, we just go ahead and click Add. And it's going to pull that paperwork into this file. So now we've got that paperwork inside of our file, and we will be able to work with it and fill it out and move forward with the transaction. To go ahead and do that, we'll just click on the document that we would like to fill out, and it's going to open very similar to the way it does inside of Zip Forms. So we'll open it, and we'll be able to fill it out just as we would if we were doing it in Zip Forms.
What? I didn't think you could do anything to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because you're in Zip Forms.
Mm-hmm.
That's different. If you copy it as a PDF, you can't do that.
Correct.
Oh.
The question was being able to type on the document. If you add a document in from your computer, it's already going to be a locked PDF, so you will not be able to type on that. So when you get the counteroffer back, you will not be able to type on that. But if you add a form from Zip Forms, you have the full access just as you do in Zip Forms to type on it. So once we've filled all of the required fields out we need for that document, we'll go ahead and click Save. And then you'll go up to that right-hand corner and click the gray X, and that's going to take you back to your Documents tab. So it's just going to confirm here that you've saved any changes you made. And take us right back. From that point, we can begin to fill out any other documents we have in here, or we can deal with just that one. And that is the step of adding the documents into that file. So again, adding that paperwork into your, basically your virtual manila folder. From there, the next step is going to be you're going to move one tab to the right, to the People's tab, and this is where we're going to be able to add our clients into the transaction. So they will have access to the file and any documents we share with them, and then they'll also be able to sign anything we send to them for signatures. So when you come into the People's tab, you'll always go to the right corner and click Add, and you have two options here. Your first option is Add from Network, so that's going to be anybody that you've previously worked with. So this is a buyer. If I sold their house, they're now already within my network. I don't have to re-invite them. I can just click Add from Network and they will populate. Or you can invite via email. So if you've never worked with someone, you'll invite via email, enter their first name, last name, email address, and then pick the side that they're on. I'm already in here, so I'll just add myself from the network.
It has to be their legal name.
Correct. It does have to, when you invite them, it needs to be their legal name because that is the way that it is going to require them to sign. So everything I do here, it's going to require me to sign as Michael Albrecht. So if you wanted a middle initial or any of that, when you add them to the room, you'll want to make sure that you do that. So If your client's name is James, but he goes by Jim, you're going to want to add him as James so that when he signs the documents, it will be his legal name. Once you've added them, they'll come in here. If you see the silhouette of a person, that means they've activated their account. If you see the silhouette of a paper airplane, that means they have not activated their account. Well, it would be right here. This is the silhouette of the person because my account's already active. But if you come in here and this is the silhouette of a paper airplane, I'll show you a file. That means that they have not activated their account. So at this point, we would continue to add people. So if we've got 2 buyers in here, we can go ahead and add our next client in, so on and so forth. And then we are ready to send them the documents for signatures. I have had the question several times too. Do I need to wait till my client activates their account to send them something for signatures? And the answer is no. They do not have to activate their account inside of transaction rooms to be able to sign. If they don't activate their account, they're not going to be able to log back into the file and see the paperwork, but they would still be able to sign those documents without activating their account.
Sometimes I think when I first list the property, I put them in right away so that it's one less thing on top of all these papers.
Okay.
So that I think it's better for them, so that it's like they're part of the transaction then and they're familiar with getting it.
Okay. Yeah.
At the beginning.
Sylvia said one of the first steps she does when she comes in is she invites her clients right away so that they have time to activate their account and they're familiar with the process before we start sending them anything, and it's more familiar when it comes across to them. So that is a good idea. If you want to do that first, you could always start in the People's tab, add them, and then work back to the documents and start there. Once we have our clients now added, we'll move one more tab to the right again, to the Envelopes tab, and this is going to allow us to send those documents to the clients for signature. So once we are inside of here, we will go to the right-hand corner and click Create. And it's going to open up our details that we can build out, so we'll get this. So the name is going to be what you're going to see back here in the gray. When you come back in the next time, that's going to be the name of the envelope. So I usually say name it something similar to what you're sending out, because that's only going to be for your reference. For example, we'll send this out when we send the counter out. I would change the name to counter offer so that later down the road when I come back in here, I can see, okay, here's the day I sent the counter offer, here's the day I sent the purchase agreement. Because if you would, by chance, let's say you named every single envelope their last name, when you come in here, you're not going to be able to differentiate which documents are which, and you'd have to open each single one to see that. So if you make it friendly on your side, it'll save you time if you need to come back in and reference it later. The subject is going to be the subject of the email that your client receives. So purchase agreement. And then the message is going to be the body of the email. So if you want to send them a message inside of that, you can just type that here. Once we build out the details, the next step is to add the documents that you need them to sign at this point. So we'll click Add, and it's going to list currently every document that we have with inside of our transaction. And we just need to click the box next to the document that they are going to sign, or the documents if you're sending them several. Save that. And then you'll want to select who you're sending it to. So you'll click Add again, and you'll select the box next to who needs to take action, and then you'll select your action. So do they need to sign, acknowledge receipt, or receive a copy? So in this case, I am going to need to sign this document. And then we will click Save. Once we've built that out, we're ready to go to the next step and get them ready to sign this. So when you click Next, the first thing that's going to pop up is the signing roles. So if I go here and select myself as buyer 1, anywhere on that purchase agreement that it's calling for buyer 1 to sign, it's going to autofill my signature line for me. So you don't have to drag and drop like you do on DocuSign.net. Now, if you add a PDF in here that is locked, it obviously cannot autofill that. So you would have to drag and drop on that particular document. But any document from Zip Forms, it can autofill for you. So it's just one less step. If you get here and you don't want to do this, or you just get confused, you do not have to fill anybody in. You can just click Next. It's just going to take an extra step when we get to the next page. So just confirming that anywhere buyer 1 is required to sign, it's going to assign it to me. Buyer 2 is not going to be assigned anything. Seller 1 is not going to be assigned anything. And seller 2 is not going to be assigned anything. As long as that's okay, we'll click next. And for those of you that have used DocuSign.com before, this step's going to look very familiar. It's going to open up and look like it's in that program. So we'll have our preview down the side. So you can see any page that's tabbed in yellow, it's already requiring a signature there. You also have full access to the additional fields on this side. So as we scroll down and review and just make sure everything's okay, if you want someone to initial, you just click on it and drag it out just so they can initial that they've read that page, so on and so forth. So we'll just go through and make sure. We'll get down to the page 7, and we'll see that it's already pulled in where I'm going to sign and the date for me. As long as that's good and we don't want to make any other changes, we can just go up in the right-hand corner and click Send. It's going to confirm that you've been sent, and now you'll see this sitting right here. The second that it is signed, that banner will turn to green and it will say signed instead of out for signature. Let me go ahead and log in and sign this real quick. While I'm doing that, does anybody have any questions on the process of creating the room and through sending out the envelope? So any adding documents, adding people, anything that someone's come across that they've had trouble with?
One thing that I've done, and I think it messed me up this last time, is sometimes when you're having them sign it and you drag it, you forget to change the name.
Correct.
So I actually clicked his name on both erroneously, and I think I forgot to X it out because he said that when he pulled it up, he couldn't sign it on the other side, even though it. So I think that was my mistake. Okay.
The question was, or the point was, on the last step, if you've got more than one signer, you'll make sure to tab between them when the signing boxes are going on, so that you're not, let's say, for John Doe, you're not putting him on both lines. You're putting John on one and Jane on the other. And I can show you an example of that here in a moment. We'll go back in and add someone else.
So he came back to me and he said, it's telling me to sign it, but I can't sign it.
Yeah.
So I should have X'd it out. I caught it, but I didn't X it out on the first
one. So for example, here now this envelope is completed and it tells us the date. So if we wanted to send out another document, we would just go through that same process and create a new envelope, which is, as I was showing, then it kind of tells you what the document is. So every time I come in here, I don't have to open the envelopes and check what's inside of that. Now that this has been signed, you will get an email confirmation that the document's been signed. And then also a signed copy will now be under your Documents tab. So you'll always have the original stays, and then you'll have the one with the green X or the green check that says signed. And then you'll also will always get a certification just showing that it was signed and where they signed it, what IP address. You don't really need to pay any attention to that. It's just good if someone tries to argue that they didn't sign something, we can track exactly where it was and all of that.
So when I did that, I couldn't go back and fix it.
Couldn't go back and fix what?
I couldn't edit it. Once it goes into an envelope.
You cannot. Yeah. Correct. Once you've sent an envelope out, if let's say you send it out and your client reviews it and something's incorrect, you will need to void that envelope out and send a new one. You cannot go back into that envelope and fix it. Yes, you would have to just create a whole new one and start the process over.
That's different from DocuSign. You can go back and edit DocuSign, which I kind of like.
So now that we've got that signed document, if you like a clean file, you do not have to keep the original in here. Any document that you add into a file, you can delete out of that. So you'll just check that box and go across the top and click delete. It's going to confirm that. And now we've only got the signed one, so we don't have to worry. Yeah. Now we don't have to worry about if we're sending something that we accidentally send the wrong one. You only have that one copy in there.
Can you ask, have any of you guys used this yet? Because I can't decide whether it's easier to send all three on one email or to send each, like if you have 3 documents,
okay,
send them each separately to sign or send them all together.
The question was, should you send each document separately to sign, or should you send them together to sign? I usually, when I go through the process, is sign or send anything in one envelope that pertains together. So like if it's a purchase agreement, you could add in the lead-based paint, the seller's disclosure, and do that all inside of one envelope just to keep it all together. So you don't have to send them 3 different envelopes, because then when on their side, when they get it, it's going to look like they're signing one document, and it's just going to keep tabbing down through all the pages.
So it prompts them.
It prompts them.
Okay.
Once they've signed, inside of, if you've not used the e-signature platform, once they've signed, so on this document, the second that I initialed here, it automatically fast forwards and brings me down to the next place that I need to sign. So I don't have to search for it. It walks you through the process. So if you do have clients on that, it will walk them through if they've never used it. It's very user-friendly. And then it had me sign here. And then since that was the last place, it comes up and it says, are you finished? And I just have to click finish to complete it.
Now, if they don't click finished,
it's not done.
so does it prompt them?
Yeah, it pops up and says,
I think that's happened to me more than once.
It pops up and says finish right there. And as long as you click that, it will come across as signed to you. Okay. Do we have any questions at all on that from anybody online? Or no, I'll toggle back to what Sylvia was saying about switching between people just to make sure you're assigning the correct signer. No, it tells me. Yeah. It'll ding me. All right. Doesn't look like we have questions, but if you're sending them over now, send them, and we'll get to them shortly. Sylvia was saying tabbing between 2 signers inside of an envelope, just making sure that you've got the right person signing the right field. So I'll show you that. So inside of your envelope, when you add your recipients, so if we have more than one person signing, you'll see it here. So these are the 2 people that it's going to require to sign. We're going to not assign any roles so I can show that a little bit easier. When you're inside of the DocuSign.com portion, so if we go down and we want, say, Glenda to sign here, we'll drag that over. We'll drag the date over. And then to make me sign here, we need to make sure we toggle to the next user. Because if I just keep dragging, even though she's already signed, if I drag that over here now, this is requiring Glenda to sign here as well.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
And that's easy to do.
So you'll want to make sure that you toggle between. So now that my name's highlighted and this is grayed out, we'll drag this over, and now it's going to require me to sign this field. And then if we toggle back up to Glenda, you'll see now she's highlighted. So it's that's the way you can tell who is signing on what field. But you will, if you've got more than one signer, need to make sure you toggle through the recipients so that you're not having the same person sign every single field. Once you've done that, again, you'll just go up to the right-hand corner, click send, and now it's going to go to both Glenda and myself, and we will be able to sign that and have it come back in. Angie, that is the page, yes, where you can add another signee to that envelope. So if you have someone, let's say you've got a couple that uses one email address, so you can only add one of them, you can toggle back on that. It is an extra couple steps, but you can do that to have both people sign with one email address. So to go do that, we'll go ahead and we'll create this envelope. I'm going to do counter 2. So we're going to add myself to sign. Save that. And then even though we want 2 people to sign this, we can go to the next step, because the program only allows 1 account holder per email address. so that if you have two people that you need to sign on the same email address, you can do that, but only one person's going to be able to log in and see the documents or have access to that account. So it looks the same as we've got one person here. You can always click this back arrow right here. It's going to come down here, and it's similar. If you've used DocuSign.com, it's very similar. We'll just add another recipient at this level, and we'll do, and then it'll let us add that that second person in with the same email address, and then we'll go over to next and go back to the step where we are, and now we can see two people with the same email address.
So where was the back arrow?
The back arrow was up here in the left corner.
Okay, and that took you to that other screen.
Yep, takes you right back to where you can add that second person with that same email address. So it's going to send to both these people. Once you've done that, you'll just click next. You'll come up, and then we'll do the exact same thing with dragging over the signature block, and then we'll toggle between it, switch to my name, drag it over, and we'll click send. Angie, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me about. Can I go to other actions? Oh, here? Correct. You can do the exact same thing from other actions. So if you want to edit recipients, I think it's just as easy to click this back arrow, but if you see this right here, you can do that as well. So if you get to this level and you need to edit the message you're sending them, because you realize you put the wrong something in there, you can edit that from here. You can edit the recipients, or you can change your documents all from right here.
Sometimes there's one form where you have to check a box. Like, oh, the counter.
Uh-huh.
You know. Yeah. And I always put that in there, but they never do.
So the question is, sometimes you need to add a checked box over here. And let's say we're going to check this, for now, just this AM, PM. So I drag this here. If you click on it and check it for them, then when they sign, it's going to check it.
You can do that in the signing?
Yeah, you just click it. So now I put that box there. Just click inside that box. That'll solve it right there. So that when we send it,
you're in zip forms.
I'm in DocuSign.
You're not, but it's.
That is a zip form.
Yeah, I wonder if that's my difference. I'm always doing PDF.
No, you should. You
should be able to do it. Well, you know what? This sounds so good. At night when you're doing this, you by yourself. Yeah, you're by yourself. What do you say?
Now that we've done that,
on a Saturday night.
On a 10 o'clock on a
And you don't answer.
So now we can go ahead and send that out, and it's going to take us right back into our transaction room. Once those have been signed, again, they're going to look similar to this, and the signed copies will end up inside of our Documents tab. Any more questions on adding documents or sending them out for signature? Okay, so I will touch on, since we don't have any other questions, just some of the other features that are inside of DocuSign that you could be using to make the process even a little more streamlined. So first we'll start with email and fax capabilities. Now that we have this purchase agreement right here, I do have the capability to send it right from here out to the listing agent. And then I also have the ability, if they prefer fax, I can fax it to them from right here. I don't have to print it and go to a fax machine. You can do it right from here. So to do that, you just go ahead and we are going to right-click on the document, and it's going to bring up all of our actions. So if I want to email it, we'll just select email, put in their email address, and then this is going to be the subject of the email. And then we'll go ahead and send that.
But when you are a recipient of that, which I'm seeing, it seems like agents are doing this more and more.
Uh-huh.
it's a problem from when you receive it, in that you can't print it. It won't let you print it. It won't let you view it.
I'd have to see how they're sending it to you. The question was, when it comes across to you, if you're the recipient, how does it come across? It should come across as a PDF attached to an email. It would be different if instead of emailing it to you, they just shared it with you.
I think maybe they're
Because if they're going to just share it with you, then it's going to want you to log in. But if they just email it directly like this, it's going to come as a PDF attachment.
What happens is it says that, I can't explain it, it's just like the form on the front, and it just says they've sent you the document. So you can view it, but you can't print it.
What's probably happening there is they're getting an email confirmation that their client signed it, and instead of going in and sending you the document, they're just forwarding you that email. Correct. So if you do it this way, you're going to get the document as an attached PDF, and you'll be able to open it or download it. Same as that, if we go back and right-click on it, we also have the option to fax that document. So if we're sending it maybe to a lender that requires everything to be faxed, you can do it the same as email. You just click fax. You'll just type in that fax number here, and then type in the recipient name and send it out, and that recipient is going to receive that as a fax instead of an email. Same as being able to send out bank documents via fax and via email. Out of your transaction rooms, you can also email and fax into your transaction rooms as well. So to do that, when we go inside of our inbox across the top of the screen, you'll see both options here. So you'll see an email address, which is only for your account, and a fax number that is only for your account. So if someone faxes you something and you want it to come in here, they can send it to this fax number, and it's going to land right here in our inbox, and then we'll be able to move it into a transaction. Same as if you want to send a document here, you can email it to, for example, I would email to gpits@mail.docusign.net. Everybody's is going to be specific to their account. And if I forward, let's say I get a counteroffer in my email and I forward it to that, it's going to end up right here, and then I can move it. So I don't have to download it and upload it. You can also email directly into a transaction room as well. So to do that, you would still send to this email address. Just in the subject of the email, you will need to put in the transaction ID. So in that subject, if I put in #787128 as the subject, then that document, instead of landing up here inside of the inbox, is going to now land inside of my Documents tab.
Where is the ID?
The ID is right here. I think of it similar to an MLS number. Every single file has a transaction ID that's towards that one. So then if you do that, you can go ahead and it's going to land right inside of that Documents tab instead of having to go into the inbox and move it. We're not always going to have that handy, but if you do have that handy, that's an easier way to email that straight in here. Again, you just put that ID, the #787128, as the subject of the email, and that's going to send that document into the Documents tab of this particular transaction. While you're doing that as well, if you want to include the body of the email, so any conversation inside of that email, if you put #PDF in the subject as well as the transaction ID, it's going to take any of the text from the email and add that as a separate PDF inside of the transaction as well. Does not matter if it goes before or after, as long as they're both in the subject with a space between them. It'll end up in your Documents tab, so if you want to keep track of that conversation for one reason or another, you can add that into your transaction via email. Now, once you've added that document in here via email, you are going to be the only one that sees it. So you would, at that point, if your client needs access to that, you would have to go share that with them or send it to them for signatures. So just because you added it in here does not mean that anyone's going to see it. You will have to give them access at that point. Do we have any questions about faxing and emailing in or out of the transaction room? Another example of using the email is I know of an agent when she takes her or goes to closing, she takes her DocuSign email address with her and the transaction ID, and she gives it to the closer when they go to make all the copies and just has them scan the HUD and everything to that. So that by that when she leaves the closing, it's already inside of her transaction room, and she can just call the office and say, I've got XYZ file ready to close, and the documents are already in there instead of her bringing them in, turning them in, and then the office uploading for them. She just has them do that right for her at the closing table. So that is another feature or way that you can use this so that your documents are in there as quickly as possible. Do we have any questions from anybody online?
So how do they do it? How do they fax it to that number?
Or they email it to that email address, and in the subject they put that transaction ID.
Address? Is it real estate DocuSign? With that email?
Everybody's email address is going to be separate. So to see your email, whatever email address is assigned to your account, you can just click on your inbox, and it's going to be right up in the left-hand corner, and that's going to give you the address that comes into your account.
Okay. They don't have to put PDF on it, right?
All right. Angie, Denny, you have any anything else for me? Really? Okay. Anybody else have any questions? I've got a couple other features that I will touch on, but that's the bulk of the transaction room. And so our next step after we've created this file and we've worked with it is just to go back to that transactions tab and build out a new one, and we'll go through the exact same steps, whether it's a buyer or a seller. So if we were ready for the next one, we would just go back to transactions and start from the top and click new. And again, we would build the file and add the documents and be able to do exactly what we just did. So no matter if you're the buyer or the seller, you're going to have the exact same steps every single time you go ahead and do this.
How do you, if you have different offers at different times, how do you differentiate?
That is a good point.
Because I do everything by address.
We'll pretend this is a seller file, and we've got several offers on the property. Inside your Documents tab, everything's going to fall into the folder called Transaction Docs. You do have access to add separate folders inside of your Documents tab. So to do that, you'll go up to the right-hand corner, and under Actions, we'll go ahead and add a folder. So we'll just call this one Rejected Offer. So now it's going to open another folder that there's currently nothing in here, but we could move any of these documents into this folder.
How do you do that?
You can just
right-click it, and it says
you can drag and right-click, move.
Oh, okay.
Folder and current transaction, and then we'll select that. Move, so now that purchase agreement's in the rejected offer. So if we want to keep those, but we don't want that in our active folder, then once you're done, you just click the little arrow, and now you're not going to see that, but you'll see that there's a document in there. So it doesn't have to stay in front of your face. Or you could build it out if you want to build a folder for your inspection docs. Go ahead and do that, and you can add your inspection here, all of your inspection docs just there, so that when you come in here, you could have them all closed out, and if you just want to see inspection stuff, you could click this, and then your inspection docs are going to fall here. If you add everything into the transaction docs, they are filtered alphabetically, starting with new numbers. So depending on what the name of that document is, they're just going to all fall in line in alphabetical order. So if you broke them out into folders, especially if you've got 50 documents in here, it's going to be a lot easier to find something in the inspection docs if you've maybe got 6 here than it is to be in the transaction docs and scroll through and pick one out of 50. So that's just another feature to help keep your files organized. All right, I think the only other thing that I was going to touch on today, unless anybody else has questions, is just show you DocuSign does have a full support page that's full of PDFs, videos, step-by-step instructions. So if it is 11 o'clock on a Saturday night and you're having an issue, you can always go to that page. And they have little short snippet videos that will help walk you through and hopefully solve your issue. Margie, I will touch on that. Well, actually, we had a quick question, and it was if you want to delete a folder, how do you do that? It's kind of hard to see, but right over here, there's a couple, 3 little dots on the far right side. You can either rename the folder, so if you want to change the name of it, or you can go ahead and delete that folder. So it's just these 3 dots at the very end of the line will allow you to do that.
And you're in documents.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So is it the whole folder? Mm-hmm. Not one document?
It would delete that whole folder as long as you have access to delete all of those documents. And again, you only have access to delete documents that you put inside of the room. So if you turn in a paper document to the staff and they add it to the room, you will not have access to delete that document.
But if I made a document and screwed it up, I couldn't delete that one.
Correct. Correct.
By right-clicking.
Mm-hmm. And then where we were headed as far as support goes, if it's after hours, late night, and you can't track me down, you can't figure it out, maybe the support desk is closed. If you click on My Account and just right under Settings, there's a support button, and it's going to open another site that gives you all of their resources. So there's a full overview, there's step-by-step, and then it goes down to even right here, like how to add documents into a folder. So if you just want to learn just a quick 3 minutes on how to do that, you can just watch this quick little video. They also have PDFs, like handouts in here as well. So it's an easy way to just pop in here if you're having an issue. Or we do record these sessions as well, so we put these up on our YouTube channel, so you can reference that, or you can just come in and watch a short little video. All right, do we have any other questions before we wrap up for the day? None? Awesome. All right, well, I think we are good. So thank you guys for attending this week's Tech Thursday on DocuSign transaction rooms. Oh, we might have one. Again, we are recording this session and it will be uploaded this afternoon to our YouTube channel. There's a link to that inside of everybody's RDesk. So if you ever need to reference those, they will be there. Or give me a call if you've got any issues and we can walk through it. Again, thank you for attending, and I hope to see you all next week, Thursday at 1 o'clock. Thanks again.